He said it like it was a joke at first, then laughed when I didn't laugh back. "Go have someone else," he told me. "Just this once, for us." I remember the way the living room looked. Our couch, the lamp we bought for our first apartment, the same plant that never seemed to die, no matter how busy we were. He sat opposite me and folded his hands the way men do when they think they're being honest. "I have a fantasy," he said. "I want you to be with someone else. I want to watch. I want you to tell me about it." I blinked. At first I thought he was drunk. At first I thought he was teasing. But he wasn't. He said it again, slowly, like reading a sentence from a textbook about things that happened to other people. "You need to know, this wasn't a harmless kink or a whispered secret we'd laughed about at parties. He framed it as a gift, like it was something generous he was offering me, the space to be free. He called it our experiment. But the thing about being asked to hurt yourself to please someone else is, it never feels like freedom. It feels like a choice with a gun on the table. I thought of the first year, the dishes he washed because I was too tired, the way he pressed his forehead to mine when I said I was scared. I thought of the nights I'd stayed up worrying about his job when he told me not to tell anyone. How can the man who once held me and told me everything would be okay turn a desire into an order? I read the comments on the forum he sent me. People with sharp words, people with softer ones. One person warned about emotional harm, that a fantasy that asks you to betray yourself can destroy trust forever. Another suggested therapy. Another said it was a form of cuckolding fetish and nothing more. And a few wrote plainly, if he loves you, he won't pressure you. Those voices were loud in my head. So I did 3 things, quietly, like a woman putting on shoes before leaving the house. First, I asked him to explain, not to justify, not to seduce me into believing him, but to let me hear exactly what it would look like. Who, when, why, and how he would handle what came after. I listened to his answers and wrote them down. Many of them landed like stones in my chest. Second, I set rules. If this was ever going to be a conversation and not a command, there would be boundaries. No secrecy from each other, no pressure, no guilt afterward, health checks, and most important, no watching unless I chose to be watched. I told him the rules out loud, so he couldn't say later he didn't know. He agreed, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Third, I put my safety first. I said no to anything that made me feel small. I said no to being compared, no to doing anything for his pleasure alone. If he wanted a fantasy, he had to accept the cost of carrying it himself. I told him if the idea was about control, humiliation, or proving something to himself by using me, then I would not be part of it. When I told him that, his face changed. For a moment I thought he'd be angry. He was quiet. Then he asked for time, not for me, but for him. He wanted to figure out why he asked it. That was the first honest thing he'd done in weeks. The next weeks were messy. We fought like old enemies and made up like clumsy children. He admitted things that made me cry. Boredom, curiosity, fear of losing desire. A fantasy he thought would make him feel powerful again. I admitted things too. I missed the way we used to be, and I was afraid I could lose myself trying to feed him. We went to a counselor because some things are too heavy to lift alone. The counselor asked the simple question, Who will be harmed if this happens? That one question changed our whole talk. It wasn't about rules or fantasies anymore. It was about whether we chose each other every day, when the easiest path would be to hurt someone because you can. In the end, he learned something that you learn slowly when you love someone. Wanting something doesn't justify asking someone else to break. He stopped saying it like a dare. He learned that some fantasies live in privacy, and some are better left unacted, because they are tests that no one should have to pass. We still talk about it sometimes. Not the mechanics, not the how-to. We talk about fear, jealousy, and the shame we both carry. Sometimes loving someone means saying no to things you'd rather have. And sometimes it means hearing no and not turning it into a punishment. If you're sitting where I was, frightened, confused, and asked to leap for someone else's amusement, hear me. Your body and your heart are not props in someone else's dream. You decide your edges. You decide your safety. You decide what, for us, means.